This is WFYI News Now. It's April 28th, and I'm Abriana Herron. On today's show, the state of the Black community was discussed at the second annual Melanin Table Talk last week in Indianapolis. Purdue University's Boilermaker Special was involved in a fatal crash last week, and how two top priority bills define the 2025 General Assembly session.
Hoosier sent me here with a clear directive that this cannot be ignored.
Those stories coming up, but first. A new initiative in Marion County will support people with disabilities during interactions with law enforcement. The Blue Envelope program was organized by the Marion County Prosecutor's Office in partnership with the Arc of Indiana. The program provides resources to Indianapolis residents who may experience heightened anxiety or communication challenges, such as people with Down syndrome, autism spectrum disorder, or dementia, to help them navigate interactions with police officers. Program participants will carry a blue envelope that contains documents like identification, vehicle registration, and emergency contact information. Officers will be trained to recognize blue envelope information and use best practices to de-escalate a situation. Marion County Prosecutor Ryan Mears says the newly announced initiative is a way, quote, we can reduce anxiety and improve safer outcomes for everyone involved, end quote. The voluntary program is open to all Marion County residents. Contact the Marion County Prosecutor's Office to learn more about the program. A coalition of Black leaders in Indianapolis held the second annual Melanin Table Talk last Wednesday night. From WFYI's Education Desk, Sydney Dauphiné has more on the conversation about the state of the Black community.
Around 100 people attended the talk at the Indiana Black Expo Center. A major focus was how to support positive mental health and life outcomes for Black people in the city. Shania Graves presented data about children and young people. She said the effects of racist practices in the city have lasting impacts that affect youth today, depending on where they grow up.
It's essential that we not only advocate for better mental health services, but also focus on dismantling these systemic barriers.
Over a dozen community partners attended the event, including Martin University and Young Life. Panelists also discussed how to be civically engaged by staying up on current events, calling legislators, and voting. I'm Sydney Dauphiné.
The Boilermaker Special was involved in a fatal crash last week. Purdue's black and gold locomotive mascot vehicle reportedly crossed the median and struck a passenger car. The Tippecanoe Sheriff's Office says a preliminary investigation indicates a tire malfunction may have led to the crash. The university confirmed 2 students in the Boilermaker Special were taken to the hospital with minor injuries. The driver of the other car was declared dead at the scene. Police say the investigation is ongoing. And for our final story today, the 2 top priority bills this legislative session will have huge impacts on the financial futures of state and local governments and many Indiana residents. Indiana Public Broadcasting's Brandon Smith reports on how the new state budget and the property tax reform debate help define the Indiana General Assembly's 2025 session.
Homeowners' property tax bills had spiked sharply over the last 3 years, driving calls for relief in the 2024 election campaign. And for new Governor Mike Braun, it was priority 1.
Hoosier sent me here with a clear directive that this cannot be ignored.
Braun's plan would have reset homeowners' property tax bills to 2021 levels and capped future increases. But property taxes only fund local governments, schools, and libraries, and Braun's plan would have cost locals up to $1.6 billion a year. Owen County Councilman Anton Neff was one of many local officials who told lawmakers such cuts would be devastating.
It's one thing to want to say to taxpayers that you cut their taxes. It's another when you have to be honest with them about cutting their services as well.
Lawmakers' initial versions of the property tax legislation focused on targeted relief for older Hoosiers and veterans, but a vocal contingent of citizens, led by conservative radio talk show hosts and Lieutenant Governor Micah Beckwith, pushed Braun's plan, including at a sizable rally at the State House.
Is it really your property if you have to pay the government rent to stay there? No! This is a fundamental question to our liberties.
Lawmakers would never go as far as Braun's plan, but the final version ensures 2/3 of homeowners will have lower property tax bills in 2026 than in 2025, and gives local governments more tools to increase local income taxes as a way to make up revenue losses. House Speaker Todd Houston says it strikes the right balance.
For our role in this, which is to create a better property tax system, more transparent to Hoosiers, provide more relief to Hoosiers, I think we hit a home run.
But Democrats like House Minority Leader Phil Giacquina say it's a scam that puts pressure on local governments.
This bill isn't a tax relief bill, it's a tax hike bill.
If the challenge in the property tax debate was finding the right balance, the challenge in the new state budget was trying to do more with less. For the first time in over a decade, an initial state tax revenue forecast in December didn't give lawmakers much new money to spend, and halfway through session, Houston called it the toughest budget he'd seen in his 12-plus years in the State House.
We're going to be cautious because there's a lot of uncertainties right now. We'll get a new revenue forecast in April that maybe we'll have a little better idea what those uncertainties are, particularly at the federal and the national and international level.
The governor's proposed budget, as well as the House and Senate versions, had a lot of similarities. 5% cuts for most state agencies, slight spending boosts for K-12 education, and huge reductions in funding for local public and mental health programs. Then came that April revenue forecast.
Today's forecast does represent a net decrease of nearly $2.4 billion, with a B, billion dollars in projected tax revenue.
That projected decrease from the previous forecast is the largest since at least the Great Recession, and it had legislative leaders all singing the same tune.
All things are on the table for discussion.
Everything's on the table.
Well, yeah, everything's on the table.
I think everything's on the table.
The final plan to make up the $2 billion shortfall included raising the cigarette tax, cutting public health and higher education funding, and spending down budget reserves. Senate Republican leader Roderick Bray said crafting this year's budget was one of the most challenging things lawmakers have ever done.
But, Indiana fiscally is in a fantastic place and able to rebound from a challenge like this, and we are grateful for that.
But between allowing the wealthiest Hoosiers to access private school vouchers and slashing public health spending by more than 70% from the current year, Democratic Senator Andrea Hunley says the budget falls short.
We know that everyone's got to make sacrifices this session, but again, is it going to be on the back of the Hoosiers that need the support the most?
Ultimately, some will feel the effects of this session in the coming weeks and months, while for other Hoosiers, the impacts may not be truly understood for years to come. For Indiana Public Broadcasting, I'm Brandon Smith at the State House.
And that's all for today's episode of WFYI News Now. Our podcast is produced by Drew Daudelin and Zach Bundy, with support from the news team at WFYI and public media journalists across the state. Our news director is Sarah Neal-Estes. Kendall Antron produced our music, and I'm your host, Abriana Herron. If you like today's episode, remember to subscribe and share, and follow WFYI on Instagram, TikTok, Facebook, and YouTube to check in on our newsroom throughout the day. Thanks for listening. We'll be back tomorrow.